All right, thanks. So yeah, it's my pleasant duty today to extend a warm welcome to all of you who logged in from all over the world. As you all know, that our fellowship was is uh, the Rotary Fellowship of Wildlifers for Conservation, and it is a group of any of interested individuals who share a common interest, willing to work towards building a future in which people and nature would thrive together. And we have a very interesting talk ahead today. And I extend a warm welcome to Rotarian Sanjeev Soni, our speaker of the day. And we look forward to an excellent meeting today. Thanks, Sanjay. Back to you.
Thank you, Subodh. I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker today, Sanjeev. Rotarian Sanjeev is currently president of Rotary Club of Muthaiga District 9212 in Kenya. So in spite of his busy schedule, he has agreed to come. I know how busy a president will be in Rotary Club. So in spite of his busy schedule, he has agreed to come. And his vocation is photography, and he has been involved with photography for almost 3 decades. So he's an ardent wildlife photographer and leads workshops and sessions for fellow photographers. Indeed, being a Kenyan, he is in the heart of the world paradise of wildlife and nature vistas for more time than not. So over the years, as he has kept visiting the Masai Mara region, globally famous for its wildlife concentration in the African savanna plains, he has seen how effectively conservation steps are implemented. We invite him to speak to us about the methods, private nature enthusiast work, and work with to help the Mara region to thrive. So over to you, Sanjeev. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay, and thank you everybody else who is here today joining us. It's more of a conversation about conservation. And I picked it up on the basis of our fellowship. We're all here who are, in one way or the other, ardent and devoted towards conservation efforts. As Sanjay has mentioned, my vocation has been photography. And just give me 1 minute. Let me get 1 moment, sorry. Great. That was to put my coffee mug away so I can concentrate on this. Okay. So what we have is, as a photographer, I got to see firsthand a lot of the challenges the Mara region was facing as a wildlife paradise. We'd keep hearing reports that we had poaching. We had, in the earlier years, there used to be game hunting. And there was a lot of even element of human wildlife conflict, which would eventually lead into scenarios where you'd have less and less population of particular species of wildlife. And if you go back into the history of the early 1900s, when this territory was colonized by the British and big game hunting came across as a sport, this region of Mara was a hotbed, and a lot of wildlife started getting less and less and less over the years with the big game hunting, and trophy hunting became something which was like a big thing across the world, and obviously wildlife suffered. And then as we came and approached closer to independence in the 60s, by that time there was more maturity, and hunting was being challenged. Laws were put in place, parks were established, national reserves were established, and the idea of just being able to go out hunting came to even a complete stop. In the early 70s, it was even banned. But that did not stop completely, because we still had a lot of poaching, because markets for game trophies and especially elephant ivory and rhino horn were thriving across the globe. So we had illegal poaching activities going on, and of course wildlife suffered. And I think across that, as time has gone on, humanity has become more and more aware, and more people have come to that absolute decision that no, this cannot just keep happening. We'll have lots and lots of species facing extinction, like we have almost a few of them within Kenya are on the extinction list, with the rhino being one of them. But with all those global efforts, a lot was done, and the bit of conservation picked on more and more, specifically in the wildlife element. Yes, we look at conserving every type of resource, but wildlife did not get such a huge limelight until the last 2 decades. And in the last 2 decades, a lot has been done. We over here can see it ourselves that it has changed. Numbers of game which are dwindling have slowly and steadily increased. A lot of people have been spending their time to research and follow and understand the habitat, what is causing, like the cheetah does not survive, what causes that and things, and how we can conserve so that we don't face scenarios like extinction. Now, as a rule, it's the governments who are tasked with such situations. So if I share my screen here to give you a little idea of the Mara region. This is the Masai Mara National Reserve area. This bit here, about 1,800 or so square kilometers, is what is the National Reserve under government management. Until 2000, the entire region was one. And what you see here is the Mara River across here. And that became a natural barrier between this part and that part. In 2000, the government changed the method of operating, and this part of the Mara area, which we now refer to as the Mara Triangle, was given to one entity of the government, and this is on the other elbow of the government. This is under the Nara County government, and this is under the Trans-Mara government. This region remains under the county government management and administration. This region here is managed by the Trans-Mara government, but they have given the management to a private entity called the CIR Limited, who manage another area over here called the Mara North Conservancy, and they are managing this zone. So it's under private management. Now, that is where now the trick is like. That happened in 2000. And we found that over the years, as you see, that what is managed better in terms of understanding what is it that is facing and creating a lot of conflict, and what is it that is creating challenges and leading to more efforts from conservationists, is that management plays a key role. If you look at this bit around the Mara, this is what we call all the Greater Mara region. Now, the Greater Mara region is all this bit, what we call conservancies. And all conservancies are under private management. Just a moment, I want to try and get this area distributed. Now, why private? And what is it that has brought all these regions to thrive? And how are they overall impacting conservation? And how are they impacting the concentration of wildlife in the reserve areas, in the private area of the triangle, and in the government area of the reserve? what is it, what was the idea, and what is it that was done that has worked very well. I share this with all of you here who are interested in conservation and might want to even see that, yes, this is probably something that can be replicated in different parts of the world. Identify what is the problem and look for a solution. The problem has been human-wildlife conflict. All of this region around the Mara is well populated by the Ma community, the Maasai community. And they have their own activities, and to ensure that they're one of the main economic activities, cattle grazing, and they will ensure that they will not allow wildlife to thrive in their land because it's a conflict between their cattle and the wildlife. So that creates a problem. And if they start attacking all the animals and not looking after, we'll soon find that we don't have the type of populations that we currently have of the big cats. The predators would be gone. That said, these are the migratory areas where all the animals in the reserve region spread out. Across here, that's the border between Kenya and Tanzania. The Masai Mara region falls just on the border, and it's the northernmost part of the reserve of what we call the Serengeti, which falls in Tanzania. So this bit here and that bit here is all national reserve. The lower bit in the Tanzania government, this upper bit in the Kenya government. But all the private area around is what is again a stronghold of areas where the wildlife migrate around, out and about, back and forth. So what the private people across an interest in conservation came up with a formula is that this land all belongs to the local community, the Ma community. What they did is they came up with a brainwave, and it started with this conservancy here, the Mara North Conservancy. Lease this land from the people on a long-term basis. Give them economic benefit because they'll not sell the land, but give them value for their land and ask them to allow private operators to operate safari camps on this land with particular methods and laws in place. They've tried to implement, and it has worked, a win-win situation where they would allow cattle grazing in certain parts at certain times of the year and not all over the region. They went out and educated the Ma people that if they also allow conservation, then it's a win-win situation whereby this area can all thrive. The Ma community can be happy and continue with its strong belief in wanting to have their cattle grow and thrive. And at the same time, we don't have a situation that they're attacking the wildlife. That was the role model. Started, carried on, and with more and more discussion, and this whole area started becoming conservancies. Now you can actually see on the map, almost a similar area of what is a national park is now again supplemented as private conservancies. Another bit is the human-wildlife conflicts are mitigated because now all these migratory routes are now open. The human population here does not disturb the wildlife, and the wildlife can thrive in its natural habitat. And that has ended up in a win-win situation. We have also the Tanzania government now starting on the Serengeti side, also starting to look at a similar model, and they have 1 or 2 conservancies also around the Serengeti National Park. And we are hoping that the areas will grow accordingly. What they've done to make it manageable is they have kept the number of camps in each area restricted by the square kilometer. They only allow a certain number of bed occupancy over a certain square kilometers. So if you look at, for example, a Naibosho Conservancy, it will only have 5 tented camps with perhaps about 10 to 15 beds each. So at any given time, there can only be 100 guests in this whole region. So only 100 safari jeeps are traveling around to watch the game or visit the park. So the impact of human presence is very well managed. Unlike the reserve, which is densely populated here, along the entire river, we've got camps after camps after camps after camps after camps. At any given time in peak season, those who visited the Mara will see sometimes it can be a traffic jam right in the park. They took this problem was in this part of the Mara, which is in the part of the Mara Triangle, had this similar situation. It was not managed. We had a lot of conflict. We had a lot of poaching. And when this government gave it to the private entity handling Mara North Conservancy, they brought in the rules and regulations, brought in restriction, stopped other camps from coming up within this region. And we have the same story that the number of human encroachment in this area was reduced. And now after 20 years, this area has more wildlife than here, where it was the other way around. So efforts, when people put their mind to it and sit down with even what, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but at least then the Ma population in that day was not educated or was not exposed to modern day education. They have immense respect for wildlife, and they're probably the reason that this area has actually survived. But not being able to converse or not understanding economic terms of how to manage land and how to earn rent and all that was always an uphill task. But people in the private world went, had lots and lots of conversation with these people, teamed up, and you'd find that this land is actually owned by probably even 100 families. But they've been able to bring all these people together under one group, form trusts, and ensure that these people receive full financial benefit from the activities they carry out here. And they've crafted the win-win situation. And that has actually worked and effectively helped to conserve wildlife in this region. It's something I wanted to share with all of you to understand that, yes, what actually makes it work. Yeah, so it's as simple as that. But a lot of effort and a lot of work has gone in, I would say, close to almost the last 25 years for this bit to have now come to fruition. And now it's at a point that is thriving. Now we have even the other areas, which are in white or still not conservancies, they're under negotiation. Some of these boundaries are changing, and you'll eventually find that this boundary here is closed off, and this region will become another conservancy. You'll find that this area is under consideration and will have, again here, more footprint as a conservancy. And that's what's happening out here. We have a similar thing in the central part of Kenya, which is the Laikipia region. Again, not very, very strong in the numbers of wildlife, but again, large tracts of land, which have been taken up as private conservancies and are sold to upmarket tourist visitors who are willing to pay top dollar to come and have the privilege and luxury of having abundance of acres and acres to themselves on a holiday, on a luxurious basis, but they can really experience true nature out there as is. And yeah, that's what the Kenyans are out there doing. There you go. So as a photographer, I've been going there many years, and this is something firsthand I've seen. Yes, it has had its ups and downs. It has had its conflicts. Some people have had comments that it is only benefiting a certain group of people in that region, but ideally it's still more positive than negative. Anything that you do is going to have a few difficulties and challenges. So that is definitely part of the overall picture, that there are challenges, but they are being addressed and slowly and steadily being overcome. And I'm trying to wonder where else in the world such similar measures can be taken so that conservation efforts for wildlife can bring more benefit. Yep, there we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Like Sanjeev said, this is more of a conversation. So
Yes.
please feel free to ask any questions if you have, or if you want to say something. or if you want to know something, Dr. Pradeep, I'm sure you wanted to ask something. Dr. Pradeep Rao.
Is here.
Yeah, he's there, I think. Yeah, he wanted to ask something yesterday when I met him.
He's muted. Okay.
Okay. All right. Anyone else like to say anything? Subodh, is there anything on the chat box?
Kulkarni.
Nothing specific.
Yes, yes, Kiran Kulkarni, sir. Please go ahead.
Sir, on photography point of view, to your experience, is Mara Triangle is better or private conservancies are better?
In terms of photography, the triangle will be better because there'll be at any given time a maximum 5 vehicles per sighting, and then they will rotate. If there are more than 5, then when the first 1 or 2 leave, then the next 2 will join. They'll wait at a distance. So you'll never have crowding around a sighting. And if you really want to focus on specific predators or anything like that for photography, then I would recommend, rather than the reserve areas, I would say go to the conservancies, because there it'll be very controlled, and you'll even be allowed off-road driving. You'll be able to approach the predators up to 20 meters and be able to. And again, the numbers of cars is restricted, so there'll be no crowding, and you'll be able to approach closely. In the reserve, actually, technically, you're not allowed to do, legally, you're not allowed to do any off-road driving at all. So if the sighted predator is about 30, 40, 50 meters away off the road, you'll not be able to go off-road. But as I said, this is under government management, and that law does get flouted. We do have a tendency of certain people going off-road, trying to take photographs or just get a good view of any specific predators and then get back onto the road. On this part of the reserve, which is under private management, it is followed very, very strictly. You'll not have, they've actually been very open about it. They've said that the areas which are high use, like this is the Mara River, and when we have the annual wildlife migration of the wildebeest coming out from Serengeti and crossing the Mara River, this zone is extremely busy. So there will even be signboards here saying that, please, this is a heavy, densely used area. Do not off-road because it disturbs and doesn't allow the grass to grow back. There are areas which are not visited regularly. So there they say if it's a low-use area, you are allowed legally to drive off-road, take the photos, enjoy your viewing, and get back onto the road. So it's better managed. So yes, so for a photographer, the triangle area or the conservancies, definitely a better bet compared to the reserve. Thank you.
Sanjeev, good evening. This is, can I speak? Can I ask a question?
Sure,
Yes,
Dr.
please.
Pradeep, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, this is Rotarian Dr. Pradeep Rao, wildlife photographer and a bird photographer too. It was a wonderful, wonderful talk, Sanjeev. In fact, yesterday I met Sanjay, and it is great interest that I was here to hear your talk, and we look forward to meeting you also in the month of May or June when I'm in Ara and Serengeti. Now, this off-road, wherever we go, there's less visited areas. Do we need permission, or how do we do that for good photographs?
For good photography, as I mentioned, here in the national park, this area, the reserve area, you can apply for a off-road driving permit as a photographer. You'll get a 7-day permit where you will be allowed to go off-road with certain conditions that yet, as long as you don't disturb the wildlife, but then you'll have, you'll not be challenged by any of the game park rangers of why you are off-road. So I would recommend that if you really are on a photo mission, then obtain the permit.
So who obtains the permit? Should we obtain it, or should we ask our agent who organizes our tours?
if you have your agent who can do it for you beforehand, you'll spend less time at the gate. Because if you arrive at the gate and request for a permit, you might end up spending hours waiting, or you might go into the reserve and be asked to come and pick up your permit the following day. But if you have an agent planning, you can put in the request and they can arrange that for you, so that on arrival your permit is already ready and awarded to you.
So the next question is about Rotary. I see that you are a member of Rotary Muthaiga.
Yes.
So when a group of Rotarians or a Rotarian is visiting Mara or visiting Kenya, can we get in touch with you to organize and to attend your meetings and to exchange flags and do some Rotary conversations?
We will fine you if you don't give us that opportunity.
Well said, well said. So now I know whose shoulder I'm going to tap. Okay.
Yes. In fact, we'll even take you currently. Even yesterday, I was in the Mara, and we have just started a project. You've been to Mara before?
I've been to Mara.
Yes. So you know the main gateway, if you're coming by road, is from a little township called Narok.
Yeah.
And the main
Narok.
gate is just over here. Is the main gate is Sekenani.
Okay.
Right. So that main road where we have lots of little villages all the way between Narok to Sekenani. We have a project with another partner organization called Humans for Education, and funded by a group of Rotary Club from America, Folsom. And it was put up and accepted as a Rotary grant from RI. And we just currently started that. We've done an empowerment project for women over there, where they are getting 60 sewing machines and 6 months training of how to use those machines so they can eventually become seamstresses. And we have a group of 25 women whom we have provided all catering equipment and a 6-month training course for catering, so that they can start their own catering business. The catering services are being done by what we have a vocational training center. So we have trainers from them who Rotary is facilitating to make all the necessary financial payments. And after 6 months, we should have a group of empowered women. So that's Rotary in action in the Narok and Masai Mara region already.
So when do you meet in Nairobi? How many Rotary clubs are there, and when do they meet in the week?
Kenya falls under the district 9212. We've got 4 member countries, and Kenya itself, the capital is Nairobi. We've got about 40 clubs in Nairobi, and my club Muthaiga meets on Mondays, and we have other fellow Rotarians here also. Kalpa is from Rotary Nairobi. I believe they meet on Thursdays, Kalpa, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, you can check us even on Rotary Club Locator. But yeah, drop me a mail anytime.
Yes, Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice. Because every Monday we are habituated to attend a Rotary meeting, because we also meet on a Monday.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay. So we will get in touch with you offline, Sanjeev.
Please. But as we said, even you see, looking at this bit now, Rotary's area of focus, a new area of focus, just coming as environment and looking at conservation activities and all. It is definitely a lot with this whole region, because it's been awarded a lot of respect across the world, that this is one of the strongest zones where we have a very heavy density population of wildlife living and thriving in the wild, in nature as is. And all the efforts of the last 3 decades have actually are invaluably going towards making this better.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sanjeev. I have shared your number with Dr. Pradeep. I think he will get in touch with you directly. All right.
Sure.
Okay. And there's a question on the chat box. It says best time for great migration photography, and where and which area?
Best time for migration photography. I would invite you to be here all through the year. But I'll tell you specifically, the migration is at its peak. At its peak, weather permitting. It's based on the river flow, and it's a wonder of the world how the gnus they actually migrate every year from this part of the plains across the river to this part and this part, because according to the rain seasons, the fodder is thriving in these parts. But generally, as rule of thumb, if you are traveling and have to plan early, I would plan for August. And you can be in any part, either the reserve side or the triangle side, but the action will happen along the river, because they'll actually walk across the borders from here, they'll come across this zone, and along this area of the river, they will actually hop across, or animals coming from here will cross over on that side. Now, why we say August is that's a peak when they're coming in huge numbers, in thousands and thousands and thousands, and crossing the river. Then there's a backward journey, what we call the reverse migration. That happens between September, October, November. But that keeps happening, and they're going backwards. But it's in smaller and smaller and smaller numbers. So the big popular one is August.
Thank you, Sanjeev.
Yeah.
Okay, I think
As I said, as a conversation, even if anybody has any input about very specific and effective conservation methods happening in any other part of the world, like what we have come up with and seen what works with the Ma community around Mara and have made it work. Has anybody come across anything else happening in the world which is something similar or something which works in any other part of the world? Or is this thought line very unique and working here in Kenya?
I would say may not be in that scale, but I'm sure in smaller scale, it's happening in many places.
Okay.
In fact, we have a bird called the Great Indian Bustard. You must have heard about it. What you have, I think you have Kori bustard there, right? So we have Great Indian Bustard, which is critically endangered. There are only about 100 birds left in the wild and all that. So there's one particular community called the Ketloi community in Rajasthan, close to Jaisalmer. They are doing good work for its protection, and a lot of NGOs, including Rotary, which is supporting that particular community. So that is something. In fact, through our wildlife fellowship, they wanted to have a statue of a bustard, a life-size statue of a bustard, which was killed after coming in contact with a electrical cable. So we supported them to install that, and a lot of work is happening around the communities which are in these areas, but of course not may not be in the scale of Mara.
Okay, I find that it's even interesting that people like our neighboring country Uganda, they've got the national symbol is the crown crane. They've dedicated to the bird. India, you've got the peacock. So yeah, the people who understand and look at wildlife and bird as something interesting are giving it that type of recognition. So it's something very warming.
There is another bird called the Bugun Leo Chichla in Arunachal Pradesh. So this is named after the community Bugun, the local tribe there, and that's endemic to that region, and it's they're going all out to preserve that area and for that conservation of that particular species.
Okay,
so
that's
these
great.
Small examples, there are many such examples.
Okay, I'll just add one more thing since we have still a few more minutes. On just as a sense of in terms of economy, if I were to tell you in terms of figures, what happens here, what was the detail they did. If you take Mara North Conservancy, for example, it's the land belongs to about 100 different Maasai families. And that area is approximately close to about 400 square kilometers. But what they've done, this the gentleman who's the company which is running and managing is a gentleman called Brian Heath and his wife, Sue Heath. They run a company called CIR Limited, and they are the mastermind. And this whole thought process, he's one of the people who went about and came up with this plan and worked with the team to actually make all this happen. But they came up with a figure. They give the Maasai community close to about $1,500 for every square kilometer of their land, year in, year out. Now that's money which the families receive. And the people who have taken the land as lease are charging the visiting tourists a conservation fee. So all the money that comes in is then eventually put together and distributed to the community. Then they also come up with additional empowerment projects for the community, for schools, scholarships, and things of that nature to bring more, make more things available for the Mar community. So it has been working because it's not like just a token amount of revenue. It's actually a significant amount of revenue which the Mar community receive for their land, and for allowing that there's no conflict between human and wildlife, so that the wildlife can thrive. So the economics are also pretty interesting to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Arun Kaulige. Mr. Sanjeev, I have a question for you.
Yes, please.
In terms of, say, percentage, what's the kind of increase that you have seen post the steps that have been taken, no, in the various wildlife? It could be lions or it could be cheetah. Any specific percentage that you have the last 2 decades, ever since the private enterprises, so-called enterprises, they, as you said, started venturing in?
More than 100%.
Oh, that's
If you look at lions in the 1960s, Masai Mara region was down to a handful of lions, literally records. I don't know how, because figures here could have been doctored, but records show that there were almost close to between 20 to 30 lions left in the Mara region in the 1960s. Today, we've got them approaching in the 700 to 800 region, in that entire region. If you look at the predators, they are thriving. If you look at all the other animals, because one of the biggest things when they talk about poaching is also game meat trade, because that's a borderline, that's an escarpment here, Ololo escarpment, and across is what the Western Kenya region, and out of here we have the other part of other regions. This is all densely human populated regions, and poaching leads to game meat trade. So that used to happen, and numbers would drop. You'd have find things like impala and animals who are actually poached for game meat trade, and that is also significantly reduced. So yeah, I would say that overall, different species, but the percentage value is remarkably phenomenal. I personally have seen that even something like the cheetah cubs face a big challenge in thriving in the wild, because predatorily the hyenas and the leopards tend to hunt down the cubs almost instantly. The cubs could be as 1 or 2 or 3 months old, and they're challenged by other predators, and that's it, they're lost. They don't thrive to adulthood. So cheetahs are extremely challenged in the natural environment themselves. Now, if you add human wildlife conflict and things of that nature, we probably had no cheetahs at all left. But right now, currently, all the conservancies are thriving with cheetah. The triangle has got a few good families of cheetah. The reserve has a few, but it's a challenge because the management is not the best, and the cheetahs here are facing a little bit of a difficult time. Lions are doing pretty well, leopards are doing pretty well, and we don't have a challenge there.
Yeah, thanks, sir. You're heartening. Thanks for your session.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, Arun.
Sanjeev,
Thank
there's a
you,
question
Sanjeev.
from Anupama. She'd like to know some details on birding or bird photography at the Mara.
I personally am not an avid bird photographer, but yes, there is a lot of bird photographers who come to Kenya. We've got some specific lake regions which are very, very good for bird photography. And likewise, Mara has its equally fair share of opportunities for bird photography as well.
Yes, Anupama, I think I'll connect you to Dr. Pradeep Rao as well. He's visited Mara a couple of times for birding and bird photography. So I'm sure you will get some inputs from him as well.
We have a strong society for birders here in Kenya. So if anybody's ever visiting specifically for bird photography or even just bird viewing, so just drop me a mail. I'll get them in touch with the Kenya Birding Society, and they will have a whole calendar of their walks and activities, and they'll have all the information they need.
Excellent, excellent. We have a few members today attending from different parts of the world. If I may request any one of you to, we have a friend from Jamaica, and we have a friend from
Germany,
Germany, yeah. So if you would like to say something, we have a friend from Pakistan as well.
Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to say that Jamaica is a fairly small island, but we do have a number of plant and bird species which are endemic to Jamaica and are found nowhere else in the world. Unfortunately, habitat destruction, has played its part in reducing the population. But there is a very lively bird, what should I say, institution, association. There's a group of people who are really into birds, and they meet and go birding and take photographs and that sort of thing. But to get the whole population on board, with conservation, it's really in its infancy. Because we have snakes which are not poisonous, they are perfectly harmless, but people have a great fear of them, and if they see one, they will kill it. And although they are many of these things are legally protected, but not everybody understands that it is actually illegal to catch local parrots, for example, but people still do it. People still capture them and either sell them or keep them as pets, which is not legal. But the word has to get around, and people have to be educated. And we're just at the infancy stage, unfortunately. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak.
Hello, everybody from Germany. I would like to talk about Leadership for Conservation Africa. I don't know if you know it. It is a big group, and they have talks each Thursday evening. Perhaps for someone of you, this might be interesting to listen to that. Thank you.
Yeah, if you could share some information about it on the chat box, it will be very helpful.
Yeah, I do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you for joining. Yeah. And Sanjeev, in fact, to the audience here, in fact, yesterday we were talking about connecting wildlife to Rotary, because ever since environment has become a focus area in Rotary, we are only thinking. Look, I'm sure that most of us, many of the Rotary clubs are looking at tree plantation as a part of environment as a focus area. But there is beyond tree plantation is what we would like to, communicate or tell all the Rotary clubs. I think Rotary clubs can also take up the biodiversity conservation as one of the club projects. And I'm sure you can make use of this platform, our wildlife fellowship group. We are not a club, we are basically a group of like-minded Rotarians here. So you can make use of this platform to connect to the Rotary clubs across the globe and engage in some kind of a wildlife project. So one thing is, I know that we can't get onto the field and do the work, but there are communities who are working for wildlife conservation. So the best way would be for us to, let's support the communities which are supporting the conservation, wildlife conservation. So please do communicate to your clubs and ask them to take up some projects related to wildlife conservation. So would you like to add anything, Sanjeev?
We are trying within our club, and we're trying to club up with other member clubs also to see if we can come up with anything specific, more a little bit thinking out of the box rather than just tree planting, how we can now approach the environmental area of focus. So it's a work in progress thing, but yes, we're probably eventually going to come up with something significant, because there's a lot about carbon trading and things going across all over the world. And Kenya has the potential to be able to benefit by having the right type of footprint and being able to benefit from that. So we're going to take that as an example and see if, as Rotary, if there's anything we can do and take it further.
Yeah.
So, Sanjeev, if I may, I was just curious that on one side, wildlife tourism is important to increase awareness and also for the financial benefit of the Mara region. But what are the issues that you see with the government-owned portions and the private-owned portions, or the conservancies? So, are there any issues about tourism or exploitation in that way?
Sorry, it's a revenue sharing problem. What happens is the government reserve marked area, there's no direct economic benefit to the Mar community in that region. The money that is collected goes to the county government. Now the plowing back into the region, giving money back to the people doesn't happen. Whereas in the private arrangement, it's a direct written and followed agreement that, look, as per the square kilometer, this is what you will get and this is how you will get it. Even to the fact that there was a huge challenge, which was also overcome during COVID. It's 100% dependent on tourism. The whole role model of having some economic return. There being no travel, the camps had no bookings. No bookings meant zero revenue. Camps had to literally close. But what do you do about your commitment to the landowners? And if you don't manage it, and if you don't come up with a plan to give them their basic money and maybe even more because of the hardships which COVID was creating, then these people would just cancel the arrangements, and a lot of hard work done to try and bring about the benefits of these activities would all go to waste. So lots of appeals went out globally, and the global community actually went out of its way to keep injecting money to these private conservancies. That's not a problem. There have been people who have actually gone and pledged, and the photographers went and pledged photo prints. They were selling photo prints at discounted rates to people and saying that all the money gathered was going to conservancy so that they could pay the Ma community to keep the land available and not to derail the arrangements. And all that happened. So money was supported. The economic bit of the contract was sustained all through, and the arrangements were not jeopardized. So it just shows that if that arrangement is kept mutually benefiting to all the people, then it's a win-win. But on the government end, these arrangements are not there. So it becomes a crisis. But now it's come to a point that the government has literally said, look, the conservancies are doing their bit. So we are happy, we are sitting comfortable and we don't need to do more. We have the reserve, we're looking after it and that's it. But the bit of conservation and making sure that wildlife thrives is being done by private people. And it's a handshake that, yeah, status quo remains and we'll support it, that's it. So that's what's happening.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else with any questions?
For connecting the clubs, if we get the details related to the wildlife conservation, then definitely I would like to put forward towards my club. My club is North Carolina, USA.
Sure, Jyoti. You're talking about the conservation platform.
Yeah, right now I just heard from you that if clubs can come together and for the wildlife
Oh yeah,
conservation,
yes,
there is the project.
yes.
So if we get the project details, then this is really a unique, and clubs may take more interest towards it because all focus areas we are covering and related to this, my club may take interest.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you, Jyoti. Thank you so much. So, anybody wants to say anything? Would you like to say something? We have a minute. All right, I think we will end the meeting here. Thank you, Sanjeev. It was a fantastic talk. I mean, it gave us a lot of insight into what is happening in Mara. And I thank each one of you who are here. And especially, I would like to thank all our Rotary friends who have made time to come and be here for this program. Thank you, Jyoti, for circulating this message and getting us some more audience. Thank you so much. So, Subodh, anything else?
No, I guess we're done.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to
Sanjeev.
having all of you in our next meeting.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.